Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things. Hey, check 1 2, check 1 2. We working? Yes, we are live. Welcome everybody. Welcome to Chatting with the Captain. I'm the Captain, your Captain RG3, bringing you a special episode of Chatting with the Captain. Don't do these that often. I've been so busy lately, but now it's time to start getting back into talking to the community, talking to people in finance, people in politics, and making heads or tails of what everything is going to look like in the near future here, and kind of analyze through everybody in the ecosystem where things are so that you can all be better informed. So my guest tonight is CC from Liquid Loans. And, when the project first came out, I'm always suspect to any project that comes out in the crypto space. But I watch extremely close when it's people in our ecosystem, in PulseChain ecosystem, because that's what's near and dear to my heart. I believe that Hex was the first decentralized crypto in existence, to actually have all the negative externalities removed from it, all of the middlemen removed from it, and gave you the power of crypto in your hands versus others. Markets be damned, prices be damned. Hex has worked flawlessly as that premier DeFi crypto, better than Bitcoin. And I don't say that to try and ruffle feathers or get people pissed. I'm trying to disseminate information and teach people. For so long, we've been gate-kept and called scammers and told that we were on the wrong side of history, when in all actuality, we weren't. We were always on the right side of history. Everything that has happened in crypto that has wrecked everybody has been anti what Richard Hart has taught us when he invented and brought Hex to the table. So it's been going swimmingly. Again, price and markets be damned. But other than that, it's worked flawlessly. Now, Richard forked Ethereum, brought the entire system state of Ethereum over on PulseChain, and sped it up, made fees cheap, launched it flawlessly. Can't say that it launched on time. Well, the 2 weeks was the 2 weeks, but it was what it was. But it gave people the opportunity to actually start to build and develop. Now, there were things going on Ethereum that people were building and developing that were looking promising. But we had problems with centralization with mining on Ethereum. We had problems with latency and fees and the S loads, which were, when you've got something, so the EVM charges you for computation, and Hex, when it comes down to it, when you stake and unstake your Hex, there's a lot of computation that has to be done. So the EVM charges you a lot. And when they raised those fees, it looked like a slap in our face. It could have been, who knows? Those are all conspiracy theories. We don't know what the reason for all that was, but it hurt us. So Richard created PulseChain, forked Ethereum, brought all the good things from Ethereum over. They are still coming over. Updates are still happening. Things are still being sent to or being brought to PulseChain that are coming from the Ethereum side of things. So things are getting better and better and better. Again, market be damned, price be damned. But hey, we've got really good stuff going on here. Now, the gentleman that I'm going to bring on, CC, they created their own lending protocol, and it's much more than that, because now they've got oracles and all kinds of other things coming out. We're going to go through it and talk about it and get them in front of the community, talking to you guys, answering your questions, and showing you what they've done. I've used Liquid Loans. I've been using it from the time that they launched. like I say, I always like to talk about these things. I always like to look at these things. I always like to give them the opportunity to go out and either become heroes or zeros. And so far, Liquid Loans has, in my opinion, has faced all of the challenges of a new product coming out on a new L1, and adjusted, overcame, adapted, and bettered their product, bettered what it is that they're bringing to the table. And they've been leaning into the community. They came to the PulseChain tour, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And they supported us and supported the community, and they want to get more forward facing and talk to everybody about what it is that they're doing. And look, we need a big tent here. There are not going to be any easy days for PulseChain with the crypto space. Look, even though the political climate is looking good for crypto, centralization still exists. BlackRock still exists. They own all the Bitcoin. CZ and the Chinese miners and all of those things still exist. And we, as DeFi, as true DeFi pioneers, we don't really have a seat at the table. I don't see Richard Hart being asked to any of those boardroom meetings that they're having. So we've got to come together, and we've got to rally this community. We've got to rally all the projects, and we've got to get real loud and real honest, and get the information disseminated so that when it does come time for the retail investors to come, they have something awesome to look at. So without any more, I'm going to bring on my friend and Liquid Loans founder, CC. What's happening, my man? How you doing? Oh, hold on one second. You're muted. Let me unmute you. There you go. There you go. Sorry about
that. That's great. That's great. So, that's right. All good. Thank you very much for allowing me to come onto your stream, mate. It's I think this is the second time we've connected, which is really good. And I think I really appreciate your comments and your thoughts at the outset there. So I had a few questions though, because I know that, you know, we've just come off the back of the conference, and we had some of our team there. And as you know, Dave and I were pretty much in the thick of launching Fetch at the time, so we weren't able to sort of attend. But the feedback from the team was really positive. So how's the sentiment been around the conference itself?
So we have been, you know, decompressing and just kind of the work is so immense, you know, because we don't, you know, I don't have a team of people out there like doing stuff like literally the crack of the captain's ass is out there taping down wires and, you know, setting up chairs and doing all those things, and then, you know, getting up on stage and announcing. So we're kind of, you know, a few person and volunteer army here. But now that we've relaxed and we've got the video out that we've had trouble with, we've, you know, gotten nothing but good feedback. Of course, you know, technical difficulties and things like that. Of course, we know that you know, that was going to be criticized. But other than that, it looks like a real good response. We had a real good turnout. Yeah. All of the sponsors, the presenters, all of the boards that we had, it all went really, really well, and we've been getting a lot of good feedback. So yeah, thanks for asking and participating.
That's awesome.
You guys were stellar.
Yeah, as I said, our team that was there, they came back with glowing comments around the conference itself. So I think it's a good thing, and it's something that we need to do more of. I think, as you know, that we also supported Matty Allen with the Hex conference. Mm-hmm. We've done that a couple of times as well, and I think so. For me, the step back from all of this, and we'll address some of the concerns or the things that we need to discuss around liquid loans, but the most important thing for us, I think, right now is to take a step back and think, okay, we've got some issue, or Richard has some issues with the SEC, and we understand. I think Nuclear Herbs has done a fantastic job of communicating elements of the process, and that's the problem, right? It is a process, so we just have to get through this process. And I think I said to you just off camera that my hope is that part of the process, that now that the SEC have an opportunity of thinking about, will they appeal or not? And if they're going to appeal, they've got a bit of time to pull together what they need to pull together. Yeah. My expectation is that I actually think they may decide, it could be a 50-50 proposition. They may decide, hey, we don't really have anything that we can argue against here. So let's just let's just not appeal, but that's our decision. Or they could quite equally say, no, we're going to appeal. And then we go through another part of the process. And the challenge from my perspective with that is that, and this is the damning part of all of this, whilst we all understand the nature of what's happening, and it's all sort of directed at Richard, it has a significant impact on the entire community. And there's a lot of people hurting as a result of that. And we're no different to anyone else here, right? So that's probably the worst part about it, is that we're having to go through it, but it is a process and we just have to be patient. We just have to get through this process.
Yeah, I'll admit, I'll be the first to admit that this has hurt myself. My channel, my projects, the PulseChain tour. It was a brutal bear market. On top of having a brutal bear market, we had the SEC, FUD hanging over our heads. Richard taking a back seat and stepping back, which I don't blame him for. But to address I have a unique perspective of the SEC and what they're doing, I believe, because I'm so close to it, because I was subpoenaed, and my lawyers are deeply embedded in the whole process and kept me informed all the time. Had a lot of personal conversations with Nuclear Herbs about some of the things that were going on. And, being in that courtroom and feeling the energy of what was going on there with the SEC and with Richard's team and with the lawyer, with the judge, the outcome that came out of it, as long as it took, whatever, was exactly what we felt. It's like that was the sentiment of what was going on there. I was almost positive that's what was going to happen, that it was going to be dismissed like that. And now what puzzles me is that even during the hearing that we were sitting in, they attempted to change their complaint. They're not supposed to deviate from their complaint, but they did, and they started to deviate, and they added a few things that they thought were more important than what they had wrote. And Richard's lawyers contested that. The judge agreed in the contestment and said, you guys can't you can't rewrite your complaint in the middle of the hearing here. So let's knock that off. And so for them to come and ask for an appeal and then need 30 days more just tells me that they knew that they had to re-prepare. So if I was a lawyer, and I'm not, I would have said, hey, our complaint is shit. We need to rewrite this and resubmit it on our appeal if we lose. So let's get this thing ready and let's appeal. And I was thinking that should have been the action that they took. But to say, oh no, we've got it, we need 30 more days, just tells me that they're playing the lawyering game of inflict as much pain on your enemy as possible, stretch it out as long as possible, and hope for the best, even when you're losing. Because I don't know of any lawyer that doesn't, run out the door, kicking, screaming, clawing, and barking at, that they were right, that they're correct, that their clients are the ones that are in the right. So I've never seen anybody just roll over and concede. So I think that's more of what's going on than anything. That's just, my opinion. But again, just feeling the sentiment of what's going on. That's what I think. And then let's also look at, we think that this has been a long drawn out process, when in all actuality, this has been fast. Look at XRP and how long they've been at war with the SEC and legal issues, or any of the other platforms or cryptos or founders that are, up against the SEC that had their cases dismissed or whatever. Those people have been at battle for a lot longer than we have. I think that we've actually seen this go by pretty quick.
Yeah. And I think that, look, the reality with all of that is you made the comment, inflict as much pain as possible on the enemy. Well, that extends to the community. So the reality is that the pain that's being inflicted is not just on Richard, it's to the whole community that is supporting and has been supporting PulseChain from day one. So it kind of, it behooves me to say to these guys, listen, put away all of that nonsense. and let's try and get a positive outcome. But I tend to agree with you. They have a particular approach and a mindset. As I said, thank goodness we have stabilizing experienced voices like Nuclear Herbs coming in, sort of trying to provide some, a more calming sort of voice around, hey, this is just a process, guys. We just need to be patient and we'll get through this. So that's our hope. But having said that, it obviously has had a significant impact on price. And, obviously not just Pulse. We've been damaged. No one's really happy with the price of Loan Token. And as us launching the protocol, we're not dismissive of that. I mean, the reality is we know that people are hurting. But having said that, one of the things that my only concern primarily is that there seems to be a significant number of people that are still with that speculator mindset. And what I mean by that, mate, is that it's just they buy a token today and they expect the price of it to go up tomorrow. And if it doesn't, then there's a failure somewhere. And that to me is the fundamental reason why people are hurting, is because they have that speculator mindset. They just want to return straight away. And that to me is, I think if you think about particularly Richard's ethos around Hex, it's around delayed gratification. It's not about getting rich overnight. It's about accumulating and using a protocol and building wealth over time. That should be what we should be looking at. But instead, what tends to happen is, hey, if the price of a token doesn't go up overnight, somehow it's a failure. And to me, that's hard to cop, because we know that, for example, people that have been using the protocol, the liquid loans protocol, in the first 12 months, folks that have used the protocol as it was intended have actually shared in over $8.1 million of US value using the protocol itself. So people that spent the time to understand how to use the protocol, had started to work within the protocol, have actually reaped the benefits. But those that have actually just looked purely at the price of the loan token, they could argue. And I would say, look, if that's the only lens that you're looking at a project, then yeah, it hasn't been very successful. But I'd argue that that's a significant number of projects on PulseChain because of everything that's going on, right?
It's everything in the world right now. What are you talking about? I mean, the whole world is. Yeah. We just watch trillions flow out of the markets. I mean, it's everywhere right now, and it's just the sentiment. And that's why that's why I worry about the big game of telephone that's being played out there, and this project's doing this and this project's doing that, versus really looking at what the projects are doing. Like I said, no project goes without its challenges, whatever it be. Even Hex, that's worked flawlessly. Look at the problems we've had. We've had a founder that's been gatekept, that snubbed his nose at everybody and wiggled his ass in front of them and told them to go, kiss off, and that didn't help any. So there's all kinds of challenges. I've seen it everywhere, with liquidity problems, with dev issues, with protocol issues, with oracles, and all these other things that are involved. I mean, this is bleeding edge crypto here. I mean, this is stuff that has never been done before. And for people to, I think criticism is good. Criticism is good, and it can be helpful, but it's got to be done right. And and discovering, uncovering, and discarding those things that are bad or need to be fixed is what needs to be done, versus let's just pull out the pitchforks and the torches and go after everybody, and that's what I worry about in this space, that we do that too often.
I tend to agree, mate, that the reality is we need to focus on the future of things. And so to me, let's move along from the speculator and say, okay, guys, the other thing that gets thrown at us all the time is, hey, you guys raised so much in sacrifice funds. What are you doing to build up the loan token, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hang on a second. That feels like an expectation to me. And I don't know how common knowledge this is, but over 50 projects use the same mechanism, sacrifice phase mechanism, which is effectively, as we all well know, yeah, exactly, don't have any expectations of anything, but yet all of a sudden expectations are everywhere. And okay, putting that aside, you'd think, okay, all right, the loan token doesn't go up in price, but what's frustrating from our point of view is that we had a particular ethos, just like Richard had the ethos around delayed gratification. Our ethos is around never selling. And I think people miss the point here. Never selling wasn't just about never selling Pulse. It was about never selling loan. And the main point of difference is that if you're looking at the loan token and you're staking the loan token, you get yield paid to you, not in loan, you get it in Pulse. So it's such a fantastic way of just accumulating more Pulse just by staking the loan token. And you don't have to borrow to use the protocol. That's the other misconception. People just assume, oh, no, well, I don't have enough Pulse to be able to take out a loan, so I can't use the protocol. That's a nonsense. If you have the loan token, you can actually stake the token and you're going to receive yield in Pulse, which is effectively what we're all wanting to accumulate. So they're the sort of things, the nuances that I think have been missed by a lot of people. And so it then extends to, okay, well, you guys raise so much in sacrifice funds. What are you doing to pump up the price of the loan token? I'm like, well, that's not really it's not what we're here to do. And certainly you shouldn't have any expectations. But without being overly negative around that, I can understand that people feeling frustrated because the price is down. But what they should be doing is saying, hey, if I had to use the protocol, I could have shared in that $8.1 million worth of value. So what am I doing? Why aren't I looking and thinking about how can I use this protocol going forward? And here's the other thing, that 8.1 million, imagine if, all of a sudden Pulse does a 3 or a 5x, once all this nonsense is out of the way and capital is injected. Imagine if we do have a 3 or a 5x, which is not outrageous. All of a sudden that 8.1 becomes more like 40 million, 50 million. It's like, come on, guys, just be patient. Remember the ethos around not just Richard's projects, but what we're saying is never selling. And there's a real reason for that. And so that's part of the frustration from our point of view. And the other thing that we tend to hear a lot of is around that liquidity thing. And it's like, well, guys, why would we want to provide liquidity, significant liquidity? Because mind you, we have provided liquidity. But imagine trying to provide significant liquidity for people to just dump, right? So they just want exit liquidity. And all that does is it hurts the people that understand the protocol, have invested time to use it and are benefiting from it. Why would we ever want to damage or hurt the true believers in the protocol? And the reality is anyone can provide liquidity. I can understand the motivation and the thought process behind that, but it's a bit of a nonsense when you think about the ethos that what we're bringing to the market, and that is never selling. But having said that, my expectation, and look, this is every project's impacted by this. And we just need to look at what's happening with Pulse. What's happening with Pulse? Yeah, what's happening with Pulse is, I think we had liquidity of 50 million. That's down to about 6 million now. Now, to me, that's a really good sign. It suggests to me that when capital comes in, the price is going to move significantly. So my sentiment around that is that's a really good sign. But it's again about thinning out your liquidity. And our view will be that, look, when that happens, my expectation is that you'll see more capital flow into a number of projects, not just liquid loans.
Yes.
So I'm really buoyant around that, but people just need patience is really what's required at the moment. And hopefully the community can understand that,
So just to put the numbers in perspective, because this is what, you touched on something where people are angry. There's people in the chat that are angry. There's people are angry about, $50 million of value. First of all, it was a sacrifice, and we all know what the sacrifice was. And I am not going to say tongue in cheek or wink, wink. It was a sacrifice. It was a friggin' sacrifice. And Richard said it. Everybody said it. It's a sacrifice. If you believe in this protocol and you want to be an early investor, get in. Now, the 50 million was when everything was at the top. Now you're saying that value, that same value is about 6 million, right? So just for
that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the liquidity in on
Is 6 million.
PulseChain for Pulse is 6 million. Yeah,
It's 6 million.
down from 50. So I think 50 million was at one point. That's what the how much liquidity there was for Pulse, and now that's come down to 6 million. From our point of view, we've always been very guarded around the sacrifice funds, and we're doing what we need to do. But patience is what's required right now. And there's an argument that says, well, why aren't we all complaining about the price of PLS? And we kind of are complaining about the price of PLS. And Richard raised $1.7 billion for Pulse and PulseX. But again, the same ethos. Don't have an expectation, but everyone has an expectation. And again, if you have that speculator mindset, if the price doesn't go up, automatically you're judged as something's wrong or you're a scammer. And some of the things that Dave and I have been called, it's almost litigious that you could actually address some of those things. But
yeah,
I don't want to dwell on that because that's not helpful. What's helpful is the community coming together rather than creating conflict. Come together and let's build for the future rather than focus on all of this stuff, which is the here and now, rather than, okay, let's get past all of this and see how the protocols in general start to perform.
Gotcha. Well, how about addressing any of the challenges that you guys have overcome along the way, things that you've changed, things that you've made better? Because there's also a lot of those people out there that are saying, hey, they this, they that, they this, they that. What things challenged you guys in the early days that you guys have overcome and changed and made better, and so that people can see what you guys are actually doing?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is probably redemptions was something that we had to sort of look into. And look, the reality is that redemptions are part of the protocol. So people benefit from that as much as people may be hurt by that. But there was I think what occurred there was people just all of a sudden felt that they were losing all of their pulse. And, my goodness, this is such a dramatic outcome. But if we look at the issue there, and that is that, and something that people need to understand, when people use the protocol to take a loan, you're actually locking up your pulse, right? And effectively you're extracting value through USDL. Now, what can happen, and this is again part of the protocol, is if there is a massive spike in the price of Pulse, people will look to find where is the cheapest place to actually acquire Pulse. So they redeem people that have been using the protocol. Now, what does that actually mean? It basically means if you've locked up your Pulse, some of your Pulse, or if not all of your Pulse, could be acquired by someone else. You may lose your Pulse, but you've already got your USDL. You don't have to repay anything. So there might be a marginal difference between the value of Pulse and the amount of USDL you've acquired. Now, taking that a step further, anyone that was actually redeemed in the early days were probably feeling a bit underwhelmed by that. But many people actually benefited from it. And I would say those that were redeemed back then would be feeling pretty damn good about themselves right now, considering the price of Pulse, right? It's like, so you can't have it both ways. You can't be complaining about being redeemed, but all of a sudden it's like you've had a forced sale, but you've already got your asset. It's not like you've completely lost everything. It's just that there's a marginal difference between the price of the token and how much USDL you had at the time. So you don't lose everything, but there was an overwhelming sentiment that there was something wrong and the redemptions were bad, blah, blah, blah. So the only thing that we've done, which is part of why we were building Fetch, is that one of the things that the protocol requires is a fairly accurate and fast price feed. Now, you can argue that you can go to a decentralized exchange and just get a direct price feed from PulseX, for example. We can do that. But the issue with that is that creates a single point of failure. So if something happens to a particular liquidity pool, or if it's rugged, or something occurs to that pool, it would then break liquid loans. So we couldn't afford to have something like that. So we've been in the process and have been in the process for quite some time to build a decentralized Oracle service, which basically means it's not one single point of failure. You've got a whole bunch of reporters that are providing a price. And that means that it provides you with that buffer of saying, okay, well, if a particular DEX goes down, you're not solely reliant on that. You've got a number of different ways of obtaining a price. So anyway, so we were building all of that. We worked through a process with all of that. We're really happy with where we've landed. Having said that, we've had to make some changes to how the price feeds were coming in, but now we are wholly and solely reliant on Fetch Oracle, which, you know, we can talk a bit about later. But fundamentally, if you were asking what were some of the issues, that was probably the biggest one. It's like, oh my goodness, people are being redeemed and they don't understand. And so we had to do some work along those lines. And I think at the time, Walrus, you know, fantastic guy, really smart guy, he was getting buffeted by the community around this issue. And, you know, it was quite a painful time for us, but we got through that. And I think, you know, having a stable price feed is really crucial. And I think we've had that for quite some time now. So again, it comes down to understanding what the protocol provides. And as I said earlier, people that were redeemed back then wouldn't be complaining about it now because of the where the price of Pulse is today. So, but that primarily was one of the biggest issues we had to deal with. Outside of that, it's just the common complaint around, hey, the price of the loan token is not where it needs to be, and we'd agree. No one's happy with the price of loan, but I'd argue that no one's happy with the price of Pulse or a majority of other projects that are on the chain. But that's going to change, guys. Don't all of a sudden, you know, think that you need to exit the chain because of this. Don't do that. That's right now, I feel, would be the worst time to be selling out of anything, because this is, I can't imagine us going much further than this. But once we get through this nonsense, you're going to start to see things improve. And one indicator for me that potentially some capital may be coming in is the significant thinning out of the Pulse liquidity pools. You know, that I think there's only 6 million was the number I saw yesterday. I don't know if that's changed today, but that's an indicator to me. That's suggesting, guys, why do you thin it out? Because if there's any capital that's going to be injected, you're going to see a much faster price movement. So just be prepared for that. That's my view. I could be completely wrong, mate, but that's the view that I hold at the moment.
Well, we always see that right before the bull market is the thinning of the liquidity, you know, because when it starts moving extremely fast, you know, and that's what it's done for. So everybody's preparing, getting ready, and, you know, the liquidity pools are getting ready for it. And obviously Richard made a, you know, bold move to show everybody, hey, it's time to get the bat the hatches, because here comes the winds, you know. So I agree. You know, people need to understand these protocols when they use them. I think that maybe, and I've seen some in the chat, people needed to understand a little more about how redemptions actually occur, because I think that, you know, when somebody goes in and they don't know and they don't understand, and they see that they've got a loan out there with a 200 or 300%, you know, loan to value ratio or whatever, that they're not going to be redeemed. But that's not the case, because the process works differently. Could you explain that process real quick, maybe so people can understand how that works?
The redemption process, or
yeah, the redemption process.
Yeah. So the process is clearly that you've got a vault. You create a vault. You decide to borrow against your Pulse, and you lock up your Pulse to be able to extract value. Once the vault has been created, it doesn't mean that somebody can't come in and say, hey, I want to acquire your PLS and I'm going to pay for that. And I'll pay out your debt, basically. So whatever USDL you've acquired in that process, you can actually retain. You're not losing that. But what tends to happen is that there's a marginal difference between the price of PLS that's been redeemed and the USDL that you've extracted. So whatever that margin is, there can be a slight difference in the price. So, and this tends to happen when the price is on an upward trajectory in a very short period of time, right? So people are looking for, where can they acquire Pulse cheaply? And they'll look at the protocol and they'll think, okay, maybe that's an opportunity for us to use the redemption mechanism. It doesn't mean that you've lost all your Pulse. It just means that the marginal difference is what you've effectively lost, because you still have your USDL. Now, the worst case scenario is, okay, let's just say you've put in, for argument's sake, $10,000 worth of Pulse, and you've taken out a loan and you've got roughly 8,000 in USDL, roughly. Now, if they redeem your vault for a certain portion of that, whatever the portion that was redeemed, you still get to keep your USDL, but you don't have that corresponding debt. So your loan to value ratio reduces as a result of that. the long and the short of it is, yes, you've lost some of that pulse, but it's only the marginal difference between that and what you've got in USDL, and you don't have to repay the loan.
And it's no different really than an impermanent loss situation is what it
That's
really
right.
is.
That's right.
And that's
right. And to me, during those times where redemptions were occurring, people that didn't react straight away, that thought, okay, yep, I've lost some of my pulse, understand that, I've still got my USDL, let's just wait for the price to go back down again, and then I'll reacquire. And in many cases, some people were actually better off because the price was below what they were redeemed, and they were able to acquire more pulse as part of that process. And I suspect that would be, especially if you were redeemed in the earlier days, you'd be pretty happy about that situation.
You're up,
you know?
yeah. You're up right now.
But equally, in the short term, you might have been down because you think, oh my goodness, the price has just gone up and I've lost some of my pulse. Sure, I've got my USDL, but I've lost some of my pulse. So I understand the natural reaction to that. But again, markets move up and down all the time. It's part of the protocol. The best way of protecting that, incidentally, is there's something on the front end. It's called debt in front. So if people are really, really concerned, and I personally, I'm not too concerned about debt in front, but there's a metric called debt in front, which basically means how much pulse needs to be redeemed before my vault is impacted. So that metric's on the front of the dashboard for liquid loans. So if you're using liquid loans and you go to the DAP, there is something called DIF, or debt in front. That shows, respective to your vault, how much would need to be redeemed before your vault was impacted. And there's an analytics chart in the DAP itself that also shows the daily amounts of redemptions that are occurring. So if you look at the debt in front figure and you have a look at the analytics chart to say, okay, typically what's the amount of pulse that's redeemed daily? Okay, you can then risk manage your position. You can say, okay, look, if the amount that's redeemed is 50,000 or thereabouts, well, maybe I don't need to have 2 million debt in front. Maybe I can just have 500,000 debt in front, and I will be able to manage my position more effectively. So we've built some of that, and maybe we haven't done as great a job as we should have to try and explain all of those things, although I'd argue that I'm pretty sure Walrus was pushing that content out constantly.
And that's
the sort of things that,
I learned from Walrus. I watched his videos and I went in and used the protocol, and I had a redemption happen, and I was like, what was that? That didn't make sense to me. And then I watched more videos, and then I said, oh, I get it. And then I went in and did exactly what you said. I mitigated the loss and got myself out in front of it and figured it out. And I was like, okay, I get it. So I wasn't too worried about that. I mean, people acted like it was some kind of a rug pull or something. I was like, no, it's just the protocol, how it works and how you operate and how you function within it. Look, there's risk to these things, and with the volatile marketplace that we exist in, if you're out in the real fiat world trying to do these things, and people would laugh at you for crying about losing money in this kind of stuff, because it's buyer beware. If you don't know what you're doing, or you don't understand the protocol, or you don't understand how the protocol works, and I, my redemption, I was a little confused about it, but I was like, okay, now I get it. It was my mistake. Not, maybe I should have learned a little more. I could have got more information. But I did learn. I sat down and watched Walrus's videos and how he talked about redemptions and how you need to mitigate that issue.
And RG, I think you would be amongst a whole bunch of folk that actually felt, oh my goodness, what's just happened, because of that sort of lack of, and it's not a reflection on you or anyone else, it's just lack of real understanding around some of those mechanics, and it is complex. But here's the other thing, mate, that I think people get confused with liquid loans. You don't have to use any of that. You don't have to use any of the loan aspects of liquid loans. I personally do, because I think it's a fantastic part of the protocol. But the other part is just stake your loan token. It's stake it, and all you're going to be doing is just acquiring more pulse.
Yeah, and then you can mitigate your position with that pulse that you have, if need be.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
exactly.
It doesn't take much thinking to figure it all out. But again, cutting edge technologies, cutting edge protocols that are being built on the blockchain that take positive externalities that exist in the real financial world and program them over here immutably for us to, utilize and work in the market with, and put our capital to work, or our crypto to work, and my hat's off to you guys for doing a job. And again, anybody who's upset about sacrifices, I'm sorry, Richard told me, you're sacrificing for this, bro, you don't get jack. And I was like, I get it. I'm in the back of my little mind here, I got this little guy in there is going, hey man, is Sack Daddy ever going to spend that money on us? Or but then my bigger voice always tells me, that's not how this was built, and that's not how anybody built these things. And if you did, and you had expectations, then that's on you. It's not on anybody else. It's the whole where's the ETH question that, it's funny, as Hexicans in the early days, when we gave up our ETH to get this, asset that wasn't worth jack shit, the whole world hated it. We were running around saying, hey, leave Richard alone. You don't have any say so about where his ETH is. And then when Richard said, let's sacrifice, everything was okay with that. Richard said, expectations. And then as people in the community started to follow his lead, build on his chain, the narrative started changing, especially as we fell into a deep, dark, dank bear market, and and I think that's where a lot of the sentiment comes from, and again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be criticized or hard questions be asked. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, stay in your lane and ask the questions and get the answers,
And here's the thing, you're quite right, because if I don't know about you, mate, but I remember when I first started looking at Hex, I thought, okay, I get it. I kind of, there's a lot of, comments around Richard being a scammer, and I'm thinking, so I'm sort of trying to understand and really understand the mechanics. And it took me, I reckon it took me probably 5 months to get through that, to get to a point where I felt confident with the decision that I was making, because I had to learn. I had to invest time and really learn what the mechanics were, and try and get past all of that noise. And so to me, that is not there's an element of we're kind of still speculating. We're kind of hopeful for things to improve, but you're spending time to understand. You're not just focusing on, oh, this sounds okay, let's throw some money at that and hopefully we can do a 2 or 3x overnight. That's not what we're about. And I personally don't believe that's what Richard's about. It's about delaying your gratification. It's about investing time to understand and building wealth over time. And I think if that's the mindset that you have, then I think we'll collectively be far better off. But if you're a speculator, go and play elsewhere. Go play with your meme tokens. Like I get it. I understand it. But for me, that's not a place that I like to play. And it's certainly not the ethos that we've sort of built around liquid loans. It's about accumulating and using a protocol to get benefit from it, but you do so over a period of time. And it's just unfortunate that the whole chain's struggling at the moment because of the nonsense that Richard's having to deal with. It's just, that's the biggest frustration, I think, for everyone that's on the chain.
Well, let's talk about some of the other things that you guys are bringing to the table that you're putting together now. Did you want to pull up a Go PulseChain?
Yeah, I think if we can actually, I'm not sure if you want me to pull that up or if you want to actually do that.
Here, unless you want to.
It's probably easy. It's probably easier if you can go, because you can navigate through it. But if you just go to the GoPulseChain.com website, the intent here for us, guys, and this is just providing a bit more context, right? So yes, we're doing what we can with liquid loans. We've built Fetch, and we'll show a little bit about Fetch and some of the challenges that we've had with that. But I think the most important thing for us was to say, look, one of the things that we realized very early was that there wasn't a calling card. There wasn't a place that we could go to say, hey, we're on PulseChain. Go and have a look at all these projects. Go and have a look at all of the things that are being built on the chain and understand the chain. And so Dave and I felt that, hey, we need to build something like that and allow all the various projects to help promote themselves in a collective way. And on GoPulseChain.com, if you have a look at under Explore, there's something called Ecosystem. And if you have a look at that, you'll notice that there's all of the various projects, and I think you've got Access Alive, Mintra, obviously Hex, Time Pays Me. There's a whole bunch of different projects that are listed there. And if you click on any one of them, it actually then, so Coast is one that we really like. You know, the guys over at fellow Aussies that have been building some great stuff. I think they have, obviously they've just built their fiat on-ramp. They also had some challenges, but they've gotten past a lot of that stuff now. But it goes into explaining what the token's about. There's video content. So for me, if I'm out there talking about PulseChain, which generally that's what I'll do. So I attend a whole bunch of conferences outside of the community because that's what we need to be doing. We need to be outreaching. And so I'll go to these conferences and the first thing I say, well, what the hell is PulseChain? You know, where can I find out more about it? So this is fantastic because now we can actually point them to this site and say, look, go and find out about PulseChain, Richard's ethos, go and find out about all the projects that are on the chain, obviously including our own, but you can get the detail. And all of the various developers have actually started to add that content to the site, which is exactly what we need to be using to help promote PulseChain. So there's some of the things that we've been doing. I think the other one that the other element of this site that I like is the community one. So if you go under Explore and have a look at community, you've got the leaderboard of everyone that's spruiking PulseChain, and obviously you've got your friend Somi at the top there. He's relentless. The amount of content he puts out is just amazing.
So
and the other fellow that we
community.
So under Explore, under Explore, just click on community.
There we go.
And you'll get to see that you've got all of the different influences there. Obviously, you're in that list as well, mate. But you need to pull up your socks. You need to do a bit more work by the looks of it, don't you?
Yeah. I'm running down here under 25 somewhere, right?
Yeah. and look, there's a fella there that I think you know, Crypto 7. He's done a huge amount of stuff. He was on with Natural Herbs just recently. I particularly like Crypto 7, but he's not listed there, and there's a couple of things that he needs to do, and Dave's talking to him about that because he needs to be high up on that leaderboard because he certainly has been putting out a fair amount of content of late. So, but there's a few things that need to be updated. But look, for me, this is just, all of this is really helpful for the chain. This is a bit of fun, obviously, but it's really helpful for the chain to promote the chain, promote what it is that we're building and all the various projects on the chain. So that was our motivation there. The other site that we've created, and again, we're doing this for outreach, right? We're really doing our best to make sure that we get more eyeballs on the chain, get them to really understand what it is that we're offering. The other site is called the Coin Zone. Now, the Coin Zone is more of a news article site. There's some guides, some knowledge, and if you have a look at that, it's just thecoinzone.com.
Oh, okay. Let me pull a new one up here. Hold on a second. Let's see here. That looks like that's it there. I'll make sure I don't pull up any of my nudes or anything here. As Richard was
that's what worried me. Why I didn't want to share my screen, mate.
There we go. And oh, this is nice. This is nice. Here we go. Is this it?
So you can see, yeah, that's the one. So basically there's a whole bunch of articles there, and it's not just about PulseChain, it's about crypto and geopolitics, a whole bunch of things that we can actually use to help promote crypto in general. But the intent is, if we've got a site like this, we can then bring people in and they get to learn a little bit more about PulseChain as well through this medium, although the intent here is to have a broader outreach, right? And I think from memory, mate, you'd be surprised to know that there's over 420 articles on this site.
Nice.
So people thinking that we've been sitting on our hands, and because we're not on YouTube streaming, well, certainly I'm not on YouTube streaming.
Yeah, but people got to know about this. I need this tool. This is nice.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, it's helpful, right? So people that want to learn about crypto and Hopefully they can then learn about PulseChain, and it just helps to build community. It helps to actually, basically we're investing in our future to say, come on guys, come and have a look at what we're building. Here's some content that you might find valuable, and we'll continue to do that. So it's not a case of sitting on our hands and waiting for things to happen. We've been doing a lot of building. And so for me, that they're the two main sort of projects we've been working on in the background. And I guess finally, and the one that, you know, we're super excited by in terms of what we've been able to bring to the community is the Fetch Oracle. Now, a bit of context for this. Initially, when we looked at Liquid Loans, and I remember saying to Dave, oh, bloody hell, we need Chainlink. We need to go and talk to the guys at Chainlink. So we reached out to Chainlink and we had some conversations around it. And we were really hopeful that they were going to come onto the chain. And I remember that, you know, that very clearly one of the key conversations was, oh, guys, look, we'll just wait for PulseChain to launch and then we'll launch. And I'm like, oh, bloody hell, this is not helping us at all. And so I remember reaching out to the Tellor team, Nick Fetts, the founder there. And, you know, I got to talk to Nick, and I really like Nick's an incredible guy, super intelligent guy. And I remember talking to Nick and saying, Nick, can you help us? And he was on board straight away. He said, yeah, happy to help you guys to build a Tellor equivalent on PulseChain. And so we started that journey with him. And as I said, you know, the reason for it is you don't want to have a single point of failure. You want to be able to decentralize price feeds. Anyway, so we went through the whole process with Nick, and, you know, we worked pretty closely with their team. We found some issues, but one of the challenges more broadly around Fetch and oracles in general, oh man, if you think Liquid Loans is complicated, bloody oracles, oh my goodness. It's like, you know, I don't know about you, I'm technical enough to know what I'm doing in that space, but the majority of people, it's complex as hell. And imagine asking someone to become a validator and not knowing how to set up a server and doing all that sort of stuff. So to me, it's similar to being a validator, and some of the validator set are actually using the Oracle because they kind of clued in on that. But I said to Dave at the time, I said, Dave, if anyone's going to use the Fetch, we've got to make it a lot easier. This is just too bloody hard. If it's just all scripted language stuff, it's just going to drive people insane. How can we build a front end to help with that? So and I don't know if you've pulled that up, but if you actually go to Fetch Oracle, yeah, so go.fetchoracle.com. It has a similar look and feel to a lot of other projects, or our, you know, the Liquid Loans project.
Let's see, pull this one up. Yeah.
So it's go.fetchoracle.com.
There we go.
So the challenge was for us is like, okay, how do we build something that has a nice user-friendly front end that can actually help people to start using the product? It is complicated, but the reality is what you're looking for is people to report. But if you also have a look, we've launched this project. I think the returns are really healthy at the moment. So your APRs for reporting is about 270% at the moment. So it's quite high. And then you also have people that, hey, we don't necessarily want to report, but we're happy to support the project. So they've staked their Fetch tokens in the protocol. But fundamentally, it's just facilitating people reporting. And there's a whole bunch of different prices that are reported. So if you click on reporting, and then click on reporter logs, you'll see that what tends to happen is people that actually under reporting and then reporter logs.
It's the
oh, you need, yeah. So you need to connect your wallet. So just if you can do that.
Let me see here.
Just be mindful. You may not want to display that.
yeah, I'm not. Hold on one second here. I got a.
Yeah, but the reality is that so that some of the challenges for us, whilst the Tellor systems obviously works well, it's complex. There's no easy to use front end. There's no education content, or whilst there is content, it's not in one single place. So we had to spend a hell of a lot of time trying to pull all this together in a meaningful way so that people that wanted to participate could, and it was an easier explanation. And one of the other things that we've built as part of that is there's a little wizard that explains how to go about using Fetch. So it's just, look, we've done everything we can to try and make it as simple as possible. Not everyone's going to want to become a reporter, but there's no reason why people can't participate just through acquiring tokens and then staking them in the protocol itself. So it does provide a return for those people that want to participate. But if you want to take that little bit of effort to become a reporter, which once you've set it up, it's actually fairly straightforward once it's set up. Getting through that process initially I wouldn't say it's a walk in the park, but it's not. We've made it as simple as we possibly can. And the intent is to have a whole bunch of people providing feeds for various different projects. And I also think, and I should point this out, that I think Sigmund is another project that's using Telor or building an Oracle system around Telor as well. I think that's fantastic, because to me it says, look, we didn't want to just be the only Oracle on PulseChain. We had hoped that there would others come along. And, who knows, potentially Chainlink may eventually come along to provide their service. But having Sigmund and other projects like that come on board means that we've got multiple ways of calling prices, and it's not just purely Fetch Oracle that's doing it. So really happy that that's happened. I think the other thing that I know that there's a little bit of push on, some new projects need random number generators that the Oracle can provide. And that capability is within Fetch, but we're not going to provide a random number. But if teams want to do that, we're more than happy for them to use the code to do that, and we'll help them in that process. So, RG, look, I guess my view on all of this is, look, I'll take on board that we haven't probably been as in front of camera as we needed to be, and certainly I'll take that on board. And I actually feel that what I really wanted to relay today with you is that, guys, we haven't been sitting on our hands, and we totally understand what's happening with price, and we appreciate that people are in pain as a result of that. But we're doing everything we can to try and bring more people to the community and actually build an awareness of PulseChain more broadly and all the various projects on the chain, obviously including our own. And we'll continue to do that because we're here for the right reasons. We're here because we believe in PulseChain, we believe in Richard, and we believe in the projects that we're bringing to the community. So we'll do everything we can to be as successful as we possibly can. And we're all very hopeful that once we get through all this nonsense, that you'll start to see capital being injected into the community. And I dare say that that's going to have a flow-on effect, not just for us, but a whole range of other projects as well.
I believe so too. Well, I mean, getting out in front of the community is important, because you have to be able to speak to the chatter that's out there and answer the questions and show the things that you're doing, because I think that the one thing that even kept me on the board, or the influencer leaderboard, is just during the bear market I didn't stop. I know I'm not the best streamer in the space. I know Somi just destroys it, and Coffee's amazing, and Hexo's funny, and everybody likes watching these guys. And I try and bring a sensible, old guy's mind to this thing, and try and inject a little bit of wisdom and knowledge and experience.
I would argue, mate, that you're probably the best surfer amongst them.
Oh, well, no, definitely. None of those guys can outsurf me. That is for sure. And they won't outwork me either. That's the other thing. I won't be outworked. Everybody else will quit. I'll be dead first before I quit working. Yeah. So,
look, I should point out that I couldn't resist having a look at some of the comments. And again, we just get inundated with all this negativity. But guys, stop the bullshit. Really, just stop the bullshit. Focus on building. Focus on bringing more attention to the chain. Stop. We need to collaborate, not create tension amongst ourselves. And I think somebody just raised a comment. Have I been doxxed? Have you been to the Liquid Loan site? Have you actually looked at the site? Had a look at Scottish Dave, had a look at myself. We're fully doxxed. It's like, for people to say that, have we been doxxed? My goodness, we've been doxxed for so much time. And it just, to me, that just suggests that people don't spend the time to go and actually do the research, go and have a look at what's out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little rant. I do get frustrated by some of that stuff. I try and avoid the negativity, you know.
Well, I want to add a positive note to that, because you guys, you guys called us and said, "Hey, we want to be part of the PulseChain tour. We want to support what you're doing, RG. We think that what you're doing is important for the community, important for the ecosystem." And that was kind of like my indicator that you guys are trying to make things happen, because we can't all be watching everybody's real close all the time. And then, getting to know you guys and talking to you behind the scenes and getting things prepared, and then meeting with your team and watching your team in action at the PulseChain Tour event was what was really impressive, because that's where the rubber meets the road, is when you get in front of somebody. See, the hardest thing in the world to get rid of is a human body. And when you're sitting in front of somebody, you can't just walk away from the conversation or block them, or just end the stream, rage quit, whatever. Your team sat there and sat and spoke with everybody that wanted to come up and talk to them, and I watched them in action, and that's what really, I said, here we go. This is the kind of stuff that needs to happen. Real people sitting down and talking to real people and trying to understand, what was going on, what things are going on, and how things are now. And that was a testament to who you guys are. And I appreciated that. And I watched it, and your team, my hat's off to them for the work they did at the PulseChain Tour, because I don't know, people don't know, it's not just a presentation on stage. We have a room, we have mixers, we have all of the projects are represented. They have their booths. Some of them have videos and giveaways and fun stuff going on, and the teams are there to talk to you. And that's what these events are for, is for you to go and network and bring your suggestions, bring your questions. They obviously, they want to hear from you. They want to know what the community wants, what the community, how the community feels, and being there in person. We all complain about, who's doxxed and who's not. And they're right there for you to go and talk to. And they, they didn't shy away from it. So again, hats off to you guys for participating and being there and answering questions and doing all that. So, good job on you guys.
Yeah. So RG3, look, from our point of view, we'll continue to do that. Hopefully we're demonstrating that, hey, we're very much a part of this community. And whilst we haven't necessarily been on camera as much of late, we've been busy. We've been busy building GoPulseChain.com. We've been busy building the Coin Zone. We've been busy building Fetch. There's a whole range of other projects that are out there. For example, the multi-sig, the PulseChain Safe, which is the Gnosis equivalent. There's some things that we've been constantly sort of building. So we're not just sitting on our hands. Having said that, we'll do more. We will do more. We'll be a little bit more vocal in terms of where things are at. We'll hopefully share a little bit more about these projects. Honestly, if anyone wants to promote PulseChain, GoPulseChain.com is such a great site for people to just use it as a reference point. People can then go and have a look at all the various projects. And the other thing I'd say is, if there are project teams out there that haven't been listed, or they haven't listed their projects on that site, just reach out in Telegram. Reach out to the Liquid Loans Telegram group. And, one of the admins will pick that up, and we can help you to load up your content. Because ultimately, that's what we're hoping, is that we've got this fantastic calling card for people to just promote not just PulseChain, but all the various projects on there. And again, if you're more like me and you like to read content, you like to have a look at everything more broadly around crypto, the Coin Zone was intended for that. And it's over 420 articles that have been listed on that site. So we've been building, and we'll continue to build. So it's just, despite all the negativity, we're hopeful that will change over time.
Right on, man. You just get out in front of everybody and keep doing your thing. And when a narrative is spoken enough and people see it and watch it in action, it'll finally take. I know it's really hard and difficult in this space. We've seen it with Hex. Hex being out for 5+ years and everything going swimmingly, we still, it's still a challenge, but eventually the narrative will break through, and people will know exactly who's doing the right work, who's doing the good work, and what things to trust and be part of. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on, CC, and thanks for being part of the PulseChain tour and continuing to build on the chain and get out in front of people. And my hat's off again to your team. What a great group of people you have there. And we hope to see you guys at the next one.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, RG. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, my man. Thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you on Friday for the effing hangout at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And no way in hell you ever outsurf me, Brissology. I will take you on any day. Put it on video. I don't even think you can swim, bro. I don't even think you can swim. But anyway, see you guys all on Friday. Thanks for coming. Let's see here. We'll check you out not much later. Just in a couple of days. See ya.
Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things